What's up, Lore Hounds? iTZKooPA here inside En Masse Entertainment, not the booth, the actual place.
Right.
We're here with Brian Knox, senior producer of TERA, the action-oriented MMO, and you guys just announced the force of evil in your world.
That's right. We're kind of unveiling the Argons today, and they are the overarching evil in the game, and it's kind of fun and exciting. We had two big-ass monsters that were available to fight that are kind of showcasing the Argons.
And these are, so what's their backstory? You know, where are they? Why are they here? Why are we afraid of them?
So the whole backstory of TERA is everyone's kind of united together in what's called the Valkyrian Federation, and the Argons are this evil that's been dreamt up, and it's a little bit more techie, a little bit more sci-fi versus the more stark contrast to the fantasy world. So there's a real good contrast between the good and the evil in TERA.
Make it very visual because they're like kind of metallic looking and stuff like that from all the art we've seen.
Right, lots of blue lines and technology, and there's a whole story involved. I don't want to spoil too much of it because that's part of the game is going through and revealing it. But there's an evil called the Core as well, which is kept under control by the Valkyrian Federation, and so there's lots of good story and side plots that'll be kind of unveiled as you kind of make your way through the game.
So this is clearly like a huge plot point that we just found out that we haven't had before. Is this going to be like a breadcrumb storyline as we level through, or is it like in our face in chunks?
It's delivered in a few acts. If you go through the first, I would say 40 levels, the first continent, you're going to get one arcing story that'll lead you into the next, where you're like, these are the guys that are kind of behind it. You get farther and farther of like who's really behind it as the story gets led along.
It's like these guys are annoying, but like these guys are the ones who are really the problem.
Who does he really report to, right?
One of the things we noticed while we were going through the demo was that we were actually fighting some of our own people. Is that something that Argons bring to the table?
Yeah, they raise them back up from the dead, and it's a little bit more tech zombie, I would say.
Yeah, they're not like undead. They're
right. Yeah, they're not like hobbling along. They're a little bit more teched out and rebuilt, and so like I said, that's kind of a plot point that's going to come along later as you kind of fight against these people that you stood beside in the past.
It's more seems like a mind control thing because they're not clearly they're not playing any different than a player class.
Zombie state of mind, not necessarily undead, I guess. Yeah.
So we've seen in the past the action-oriented MMO, all the fast-paced and the being in the right spot at the right time being a big thing. Has any of that changed recently? It's it's been months since we've really focused on that part.
Yeah, that's a good question, because one of the things with action combat is how is it going to balance out with all the classes in our game. And so we've actually had a few classes that have had their roles shifted a little bit here or there to make use of their self in the party, but it's such a huge difference in dynamics because of where you're at matters so much. The healer just isn't the healer you're used to. The tank isn't the tank you're used to. So we've had to make a lot of adjustments based on player feedback of what are your roles in the party, what are you doing, and trying to make the party as accessible as possible so you don't necessarily have to have the exact combination. Yeah, so it's been a long balance, and I think that we're finally getting to the point where it's fun for everybody, and everyone's playing a critical role, and you don't have to have that exact 10 combo necessarily every time. There's different ways around it.
One of the things I remember from previous expeditions in the game is you really run into these big-ass monsters, as you guys love calling them, all the time, and they, it seems like they'd be fodder, but then they end up taking like 10, 15 minutes to beat. Is that like something that you're constantly fighting on balancing to like, so players don't just avoid every encounter?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it is a balance of, how short is, too easy, or is, long just make it harder, or is it just long to be long? So you got to find that exact balance. I mean, there was fights in the beginning of the development of the game that were 25, 30 minutes, and, that wasn't necessarily fun, right? Especially if you're doing the same thing. If a boss is phasing in different stages, that's one thing. But if a boss is just doing the same thing for 30 minutes, not necessarily as fun. So we've tried to find that right balance. And I think boss fights right now average between 5 and 10 minutes. But good parties can do them a lot quicker. And I think efficiency in TERA is actually what's really key is, if you're good and you know what you're doing, then you're going to do it a lot faster and a lot better than anybody else.
Anyone who's been following the game for a while knows it's actually an Asian MMO that's coming over, and there's been so it's been out there, right?
Correct. So it launched in Korea earlier this year.
And are we gonna, the North American / European audience, gonna see everything they've had since launch at our launch, or is it gonna come in as later content like it did for them?
So we're going to be as up to date as humanly possible, but right now we're really just focusing on making sure that the quality level's there in all stages of the game, whether that's the level 1 through 10 newbie experience or the level in game, right? And so we want to make sure that all of that's there, polished, and at the level of quality that the Western audience is going to expect.
So TERA, subscription based. Do we have a year yet?
Yes, we actually announced our release date, or timing, I guess you could say, a couple weeks ago. We're going to be launching in spring of 2012.
Awesome. Okay, so spring 2012, mark off your calendars, take some days off work for TERA, the action MMO. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you.